The 49ers draft is almost over. It was a defensive heavy one. We're going to dive into each pick and what we think. What's going on?
What's up, everybody? How you doing, Sid?
Not bad, yeah?
I mean, there's plenty to be excited about if you're a 49er fan right now. Let's just start with the first overall pick. 11th overall, the 49ers go ahead and draft Mykel Williams. Some people seem to think it's a reach. I mean, at first, I'm not going to lie, I did want Jalen Walker. I think we were on here and we were talking about how badly we wanted Jalen Walker. But Mykel Williams is the closest thing to Aldon Smith. And we all remember as 49er fans what Aldon Smith was as a San Francisco 49er. He's a long, big DN. He's 260 pounds, 6'5". Expect one thing with this draft class. The 49ers will get knockdowns. The quarterback's balls are going to get knocked down. These are big men that the 49ers have brought in.
Yeah, for sure. Like, listen, we were big on Jalen Walker, but when you're talking about a guy like Mykel Williams, I think Shanahan said it best at the press conference after the first round. He said, when you first watch Mykel Williams, you're like, but the more you watch him, the more you fall in love with him. So I completely agree. I really dove into his tape after the 49ers selected him, obviously, and yeah, it's exactly as Shanahan said. The more I watched him, I was more like, wow, I like this guy a lot.
So what I see when I see Mykel Williams, I see a big edge rusher, but I see a big guy that's going to set the edge. The 49ers needed to address the run defense, that you cannot play football in the NFL. We talked about this before the draft, and I was asked, where do we expect the 49ers defense to finish this season coming off of a 29th ranked defense? And I said it all comes down to what they do in the draft. And I was up for 4 straight defensive picks. The 49ers did better. They did 5. So they addressed the run defense in a big way. They brought in 2 big D tackles, and they brought in a huge edge rusher at 11 who not only can get pressure on the quarterback, he can set the edge. Now, he's got some room for growth as a pass rusher. But one thing that I took away from all of this was that, I don't know if a lot of people know this, Mykel Williams was the number 1 double-teamed Georgia player. Now, Georgia's full of great defenders and, a bunch of players being drafted, Jalen Walker being one of them. But the one takeaway that I just love is the fact that he was the guy that the offense chose to double. And that tells you a lot. Like, I've played the game and I understand when an offensive coordinator is targeting a specific player to stop him from wrecking the game as a defensive lineman, it tells you a lot.
100%. Like, at the end of the day, he was the biggest threat on the D-line. He just was, because he's got the size over Jalen Walker. He's got the bull rush. He's got the power. Jalen Walker has speed. But I like the Mykel Williams pick because, like you said, and John Lynch made it very clear, he's the best edge setter in the draft. He just is. Once he's on that side of the D-line, you don't have to worry about the ball being ran there as much. He's not going to require a lot of help. He's a big human being on that edge, and it's going to be tough to run on that side. And as for the pass rushing moves, I agree. That's something he has to work on, and that's something Nick Bosa is going to help him with a lot. So it's big time having a guy like Nick Bosa to be his teammate.
There's another big thing is the fact that Nick Bosa will be on the opposing side, which means you're not going to be doubling Mykel Williams like the way he's experienced in his college career. He's going to get a lot of opportunities in the NFL. He might even get more opportunities than he did in college until he starts making those big plays. And if he starts making those big plays, now the offense has got a problem. They got to decide who they double and who they prevent from taking over the game. Nick Bosa is a game-taking over type defensive end when given one-on-ones, but he's been getting doubled as of late. And now if Mykel Williams comes in and demands a double team, or they got to decide who they're going to double between the two, this is when you'll see the 49ers defense take off on third down.
All right. And so I guess one downside we could see with the Mykel Williams pick is that he's been dealing with the lingering ankle issue all last season. But one thing that is undeniable that you can't take, that you got to give it to him, he played through. So that shows heart. We're used to dealing with a lot of injuries. So
yeah, and I've dealt with a high ankle sprain before, and I know exactly what it's like. It's not fun, and he played 2 weeks after a high ankle sprain. Typically, a high ankle sprain is 4 to 6 weeks. A lot of people do come back in 4 weeks, but it lingers. And for sure, it lingered and bothered him throughout the season. And, he played through it and he played at a high level. Again, like I said, teams chose to double him over the other players on that defense. And there's a lot of good players on a Georgia Bulldog defense. So the 49ers did their homework and they came away with Mykel Williams being the best guy at that spot and 11th spot.
Yeah.
You got a difference maker.
Yeah, another thing I'd like to mention as well is we're talking about a 3-year starter, and he's 20 years old, and he's been starting in college for 3 years. So that you see, there's a lot more tape to watch on him in comparison to a guy like Jalen Walker. So you could get to know him a lot better than a guy like Jalen Walker. So it's going to be interesting. I'm excited for him, especially the fact that he's 20 years old. But like this is a serious build for a 20-year-old.
Yeah, a lot of people come out at 21, and that's generally a pretty good time to come out. He came out at 20. This is a big man. Like, this is a grown man at 20 years old. And one thing you see with 20-year-olds is they still have a lot to grow. So if what he's done so far is only going to be a telling tale what happens from here on in, there's plenty to be excited about if you're a 49er fan. I think you could see a big jump from his last season in college to this year. It's very possible. Obviously, his competition is a big jump as well. But, he's going to be better than he was last year, and he'll do that for the next 3 years most likely. And then at that point, he'll reach his pinnacle, and hopefully it's a really high ceiling, and it's enough to be a big-time player in this league.
Yeah, another thing I want to mention just before we move past Mykel Williams is something that doesn't go unnoticed in his press conference and when he was just on the phone or when he first touched down in San Francisco. He carries himself properly. He seems very respectful. He doesn't seem like he's cocky or nothing like that. He seems like a respectful young man for 20 years old. He carried himself pretty well.
Yeah, I did see that. And that's something that, people might think is not really a big deal. But let me tell you something. When you're picking at 11th overall, you need to get everything right. And character is a big deal, and they love his character. And this is a guy that's, he's going to start working from right now. I really believe that. I think Robert Saleh and the coaches are going to get on him right away. And the Niners have a great defensive line coach. We all know that. And he's done a lot of good work with a lot of people. He's revived careers like Arden Key. Arden Key's, another long, rangy D end that the 49ers were able to revive his career. And he worked out really well. Leonard Floyd, they brought him in. Same kind of idea. But this is a much bigger man who's also long. He ran and my player comparison, let's not get Alden Smith. Alden Smith was, I believe he was 6'4", so he's an inch shorter, but the same kind of weight and the same kind of speed. So the 49ers are addressing needs and they're going back in time. They're trying to get players that they've had a lot of success with, and they're trying to bring them back in.
Yep. Okay, so let's move on to this second round pick, 43rd overall, Alfred Collins, D tackle out of Texas. What was your thoughts on that pick? Because a lot of people were thinking O-lineman here. A lot of people were thinking O-lineman in the first round. We've been saying from the beginning, I'll give us props for it, that the Niners need to go heavy on defense, specifically the D-line, and they blessed us with at least the first 2 picks of that D-line.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do. Now, you need to understand in football, especially when a team just went through what the 49ers went through and lost all these starters, every team has needs. But the difference is there's needs and there's musts. And this is a must. Defensive line was a must for the 49ers. And they showed you that with the way the draft went. So the 49ers went ahead and drafted Alfred Collins with their second round pick out of Texas, a big man, another big man, 6'6", 331 pounds or whatever it was. The point is the 49ers are addressing the run defense first. This is a run defender, but also he knocked the ball down a lot in college. And at 6'6", and you got Mykel Williams beside him at 6'5", this is going to be something that's going to be blessing us as 49er fans, because you can get off the field as easy as a knockdown pass as opposed to playing really good defense. So these guys bring a lot to the table aside from their abilities, that physical attributes of being 6'5" and 6'6", the advantages of being so big and large and rangy, they can knock down balls.
Right. So yeah, they obviously made it a point where we want our guys bigger than yours, especially in the trenches where it matters the most, where when you need a 3rd and 1 stop, these are the guys that are going to be on the field. Mykel Williams is going to be setting the edge, and Alfred Collins is going to be right there. So I love the size out of these guys, but more importantly, I think Alfred Collins is a hell of a football player. Like he has a plethora of pass rushes. I've seen him do nice spin moves. He has a nice swim move. He rips very well, and I've also seen him do the move where they just yank the old lineman towards them and swim right over him. So he has this. He has a lot of pass rush skills, although the numbers may not have translated. But at the end of the day, numbers are numbers, and it only tells half the story. If you don't watch the tape, you're not getting the full story.
Yeah, you always got to pay attention to the player's abilities to get to the quarterback. It's not always about finishing, and it's not always about, getting the stats. Sometimes pressures can be just as effective. It could lead to an interception. And like I say, the knockdown he had a lot in college, and it's no surprise when you're 6'6". The thing is, the 49ers understood that they needed to address the run defense first, and their first 3 picks couldn't be louder. I mean, you had guys like Grant Cohen and all these other people talking about how the 49ers have to address the O-line. Yeah, the O-line is a need, but the defense was a must. I mean, they're coming off being ranked 29th overall, and this was going to get worse if they did not address it. It was going to get worse. I mean, you lost Dre Greenlaw, you lost Tafunga, and you lost Charvarius Ward. These are big time players. We're not even talking about just regular starters. These are big time players that we lost. And then you want to go in the front. You lost Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Hargraves, all big names in a sense, at least better than average. And you've left yourself with like not very much depth at all. It was no brainer that the 49ers had to go D-line. They did just that. I understand there's a need at offensive line, but the D-line was more important. That's the facts. I totally agree with this draft. I couldn't be more happy.
I agree, and again, like, look, at the end of the day, these are going to be rookies. We can't expect too much out of them. I don't know, like, you can't expect to compete for a Super Bowl this year, but what the 49ers did, in my opinion, when you go so heavy at a specific positional group like the D-line, they're not all going to be hitters, and they're not all going to be multi-year starters. In my opinion, what they did is they locked up at least 1 or 2. That's what you need to do. When you invest in a position, if you invest heavily into a position, you're going to hit. If you take 1 or 2 D tackles this year, there's no guarantee that they work out. So the 40 or defensive line in general, there's no guarantee that these rookies work out. So the Niners set themselves up even better for 2026. They're going to know who deserves to be on the field and who's just a bench player. And yeah, that's exciting, especially looking into 2026.
So moving on to our 3rd pick, which was the 75th overall pick. There was Nick Martin. By the way, the comparable for Alfred Collins, a lot of people said, was DeForest Buckner or Armstead. Again, 2 big guys, 2 tall guys. And now the 49ers go with a linebacker that's very much like Greenlaw. He's long. He runs the same 40. He's the same height. The only difference is he's lighter. But that's big praise. I mean, that's nothing to say that he's going to be Dre Greenlaw. It just seems like the 49ers understand what they want and what works for their system, and they went and targeted guys that are very similar to the guys they had success with. And this guy's prime example. Very much like Dre Greenlaw in many ways. Pay attention to his tape. His tape is not just in the box. This guy's making plays outside of the box. He's sideline to sideline. It fits the narrative of trying to get a guy just like Dre Greenlaw. I mean, I was pretty much, I hate to say this, but I was probably more excited about this pick than the first 2. Not that saying that he's better, but I just mean like the need and the guy they picked, it fits Dre Greenlaw to the T. And this is a big time player. I think the 49ers did what they do every single time. 3rd round or 4th round or 5th round, they find a gem. I think we found a gem. I really believe that. I'm not just saying that lightly. I've watched enough tape on him the last day here after the pick because I wanted to dive into who the hell it was that they got. Don't get me wrong. I watched a little bit before, but I really wanted to know for sure if this guy's going to be able to play because he's a little light, 221. But keep in mind, those arms that he's got are very long for that position. He's got 32-inch arms. And
Yeah.
this is a big time. I think this is a big time pick. I really do.
Listen, he checks all the boxes in terms of athleticism, in terms of, like you said, his arms are long. Weight is something that you could always put on. If he puts on some weight, you get built some muscle. It's not going to diminish his speed. So obviously, a jump from college football to the NFL, especially at a position like linebacker where you're dealing with better running backs, shedding better blockers, he can put on some weight. I'm excited because he is really fast, and like you said, what jumps off the tape is he is sideline to sideline, and yeah, it could be interesting. My biggest question when we took him was, what does this mean for D Winters? And I guess if this guy is the 1 and 2 down tackler, and D Winters comes in on third down, that makes sense to me. He plays similar to Dre Greenlaw in a way where he tackles extremely aggressively, which is something that, in my opinion, is a need for a linebacker. So I like it. And not to mention, when you watch the tape, when you send him on a blitz, he seems fearless. He's going full tilt, full throttle, and he's looking to knock somebody over. So I like it. The more I watch him, the more I like
The 49ers addressed a big need here. I mean, you got a guy that's running 4.53, like we said. He's making tackles sideline to sideline, and he is a blitzer as well. And when he's blitzing, he's coming with a lot of speed and with every intention to get the sack. If you pay attention to the tape, he is always trying to get through whatever's in his way to get to that quarterback viciously. And this is the type of player that fits the 49er way. The 49er way is playing aggressive football. This is an aggressive linebacker. I love the pick. I really do. I think this to me is the most exciting pick because it's a third round pick and I think you hit. And the only reason why he's there is because he was injured.
Yeah, I agree. So let's move on here. 100th overall pick, Upton Stout, corner out of Western Kentucky. Now, first of all, obviously the thing that jumps off the screen is that he's a small dude. We're like 5'8". What was it? 100. How much did he weigh? I don't think it was much over 170, was it?
No, he's not a big guy in any way. I'm not exactly sure what his weight is, but again, the thing that stood out is his size.
Right. So the more I tried to think about this pick, the less it made sense to me, to be honest. Like, because in my opinion, we have the best slot corner in Diamador Lenore. If you take a rangy outside cornerback and then you put Diamador Lenore in the slot on third downs or whenever you need him, that would have been a more sensible matchup. But I guess Diamador Lenore, I guess their plans for him is to stay outside at least whenever he can and play this guy in the slot if this guy ever sees the field or when he sees the field. But another thing, more I thought about it, his player comparison is K'Wan Williams. He's a smaller guy. I mean, this guy's got similar speed to K'Wan Williams, and Robert Saleh had K'Wan Williams when he was on the Niners. So I guess he was looking for another replacement similar to that.
So it's 100% true that the 49ers, I've even seen them be asked the question. So they have every intention of him coming in and playing the slot, which would mean that, Lenore would play outside. But again, he's got to earn that spot. And if he earns that spot, then it means Lenore can travel or just stay on one side and whatever it is, but he'll play outside. If he doesn't earn the spot, Lenore will resume his role as being a guy that goes all over the place in this slot, wherever it may be that we need him. But if this guy can come out there and actually take that kind of a role, it would be huge for the 49ers. I watched the tape. He runs a middle 4.4, like a 4.44 actually, which is pretty fast, and that's definitely a good thing for a slot corner. He's probably really quick too because he's short. He's 5'8". He's low to the ground, and he's going to be able to cover. But I just don't like the fact that he's as small as he is. But having said that, the 49ers have said that he's very feisty, even in his energy. They say he brings a lot of energy, and they laughed about it, the way he was talking to the owner, calling him a coach and saying, let's do it. So This is a guy that brings a lot of energy, and the 49ers are high on him because of that. They think he plays bigger than he actually is, and they think he has good man abilities. And he runs a middle 4.4 range. So, not a lot of people are going to run away from him per se. It's just going to come down to, is he going to be able to handle it physically? And if he can, then, maybe he can play like a K1 Williams type role and start shutting down people on the inside and let Lenore play outside.
Right. So now moving on to the 5th pick. Another defender. 113th overall, CJ West, D tackle out of Indiana. I know we spoke about him while we were doing mock drafts and stuff. What did you think about this pick?
I'm going to be honest. I was extremely excited the fact that the 49ers went back to D tackle. I was worried that this is where they're going to start going offense heavy, and they do end up going offense for 2 picks or 3 picks after this, which is fine because they've done their job at this point. And that's addressing the defensive line. They got their 2 defensive tackles. They got the big edge player. So I wasn't against it, and they even got the linebacker. So I was not against it one bit. And the fact that he is an All-American, and he's a big dude. He's at 317 pounds. He's 6'3". This is a guy that is going to help the 49ers run D. And more that you're going to come to realize is the 49ers understand when they're at their best, they're able to stop the run, because what that means is the offense is going to be forced to get into those 3rd and long situations. And that's when the 49ers defense can be at their best, just like any other NFL defense. And the way you do that is by stopping runs early downs. And, don't allow the 6 and 7 yard run that just really opens up a playbook. And that's what the 49ers understand. That's what these guys have had a lot of success together. John Lynch and Mike Shanahan have had a lot of success together because they fully understand defense is what wins first. And that's what I believe. And I think they've addressed that.
That's funny you said Mike Shanahan. I wish we had Mike Shanahan. We got Kyle Shanahan.
Sorry, Kyle Shanahan. And Kyle Shanahan, I don't wish that it was Mike Shanahan, to be honest, but I have no issue with Kyle Shanahan. My only issue with Kyle Shanahan is in the 4th quarter, he takes it off the pedal. If he could just leave his foot on the pedal, I think the 49ers would have a ring by now. And we'll probably get another shot at a ring in the next 3 years because this draft was bang on.
So these first 5 picks, was Kyle and John watching our stream, or what the hell happened here? They were watching our mock draft. Scared.
It's funny because, like I said, there was a lot of people talking about how the 49ers have to go offense and offensive line, and they're going to get Cam Scadaboo with their 3rd round pick and all this stuff. And I kept saying every time I heard it, it just grossed me out because it was like almost like they didn't understand what happened to the 49er defense. They were bad last year, 29th overall, and the good players they had are all gone outside of Fred Warner and Lenore and Bosa. I mean, yeah, Malik Mustafa's coming up, but there really isn't much left after that. Ronaldo Green's coming up, but there's a lot of holes, and the 49ers address those holes.
All right, so let's move on to the first offensive pick. Comes at 138th overall. Jordan Watkins, wide receiver out of Ole Miss. I guess we expected a wide receiver at some point in the draft. It comes here at 138th. We knew a wide receiver is going to be taken. Where does he fit in with the 49ers? Like, it's hard to say. We signed a veteran. We got Ayuk coming back eventually. We have Juwan Jennings and our 1st-round pick, Pearsall, last year. Is this guy going to see any play time, or is this guy a tryout, or is he a practice squad player? What is this?
I think he's going to get some chances here. But, I mean, it's going to come down to he's going to get his opportunities early because when Ayuk does come back, he's probably going to get limited. But the 49ers and us as well have been screaming for a deep threat. This is a 4.37 40, and he's 5'11". So the speed is there, and we need to get somebody to threaten the deep shot and just back up those DBs. And this is exactly what the 49ers did here. They're going after taking the top off the defense, and they picked a guy that they feel that can help them in that way.
Right, I didn't mind the pick. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't watched a ton of him. From the little that I've watched, I thought he was a good fit for what we need, and yeah, that's really it. So now let's move on to a pick that I didn't like. 147th overall, Jordan James, running back out of Oregon. Again, our running back, we knew the Niners were going to take at least. Well, they took one. Now, played at a good school. He's a smaller guy that hits heavy. I like that. In terms of his athleticism, it's subpar. It's really far down. He's run slower. He doesn't have great broad jump. None of it jumps off the screen. I didn't really like the pick. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know the other running backs that were available specifically at the time. But I don't think he fits a Shanahan offense. I don't think he's much of a receiver. I don't think he's much of a one gap and go type of running back. But he is a workhorse, which might be what the Niners need if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt again.
Well, his style is a one cut and go, and he's a 4.55, so he can't really afford to be anything other than that. He's not exactly going to run away from people, and he's going to have to play physical. And he's going to have to play really physical to be effective because he's 5'9", 205. He's not exactly the biggest guy, and he's not exactly the fastest guy. So he's going to have to bring it, and like I say, he's going to have to play physical. And if he doesn't play physical, there's really not much there. I mean, he's not going to run away from people. He's not going to shake people all that much. You know, his 10-yard split was a 1.62. I don't think that's that great for a running back. So, yeah, like I say, this guy's going to have to play physical or he's not going to bring much to us because I know he's not a receiving back either.
Yeah, no. The unfortunate reality is he could see a large, I won't say large, but a fair amount of play time in his rookie year. Because, like we said, we all hope McCaffrey stays healthy, but it's hard to say at this point. And again, Guerrero, I feel like this running back is the definition of a workhorse. He's a 3-down back. He's not going to help you much on 3rd down in the pass game, but he can play all 3 downs. He does absorb hits and he gives hits. I think that's what they were going for. A guy who can stay healthy and just play all 3 downs. Because again, Guerrero's not that player either. I mean, I guess it's unfair to rule him out as one because of his rookie year, but at least from what we've seen so far, he's not, and neither is Christian McCaffrey, unfortunately, at this age, just because of the injury risk.
I don't think he'll get that much playing time, to be honest. I think he could get playing time if you lose Guerrero and McCaffrey. I don't think the 49ers are going to lose both of them. I think you might lose a couple games out of McCaffrey and maybe a couple games out of Guerrero. It's not every year a team should lose 3 backs. The Niners have had some bad luck that way. But eventually that's got to turn around. It just shouldn't happen every single year.
Sorry, just to speak on that point, I guess that's up to Kyle Shanahan. How hard is he going to work Christian McCaffrey at the age of 29? Is he going to incorporate Isaac Guerrero early so Christian McCaffrey doesn't feel so much strain early on?
Well, I don't think he needs to coach it to save the guy's career. I mean, the guy's 27 years old. If you can get the best out of him, get the best out of him. If he needs to be a bell cow for us, let him be a bell cow for us. And if his career ends or slows down next year, oh well. I mean, at the end of the day, running backs should be slowing down by 28, 29 in this league. It's generally when it happens. So if he can give us one more Christian McCaffrey year, or if we're really lucky, 2 more, that's all you can ask at this point. Now, if Christian McCaffrey's feeling it, they're not going to be taking him off the field for Guerrero or this guy, Jordan James. It's just not going to happen. But like you said, if you want to have him for the full season, then maybe taking a little bit of load off him, it does make a little bit of sense. But don't kid yourself. Week 1, Christian McCaffrey's going to get his touches. The 49ers are going to feed him.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Okay, moving on. 160th overall, Mykel Williams, safety out of Kansas State. We needed a safety. We need more competition there. We need more depth there.
Yes, 100%. Go ahead.
I haven't watched much of this guy, but I've heard around that it was a good pick. I haven't looked at the numbers yet. Let's pull up this guy's numbers.
Okay, so I have him. Mykel Williams, the thing that stood out to me is the first thing I always check because I played this position. I always check the 40 because it tells you what a safety can do in range and in space. He runs a 4.37. So when somebody runs a 4.37 as a safety, that's a rare thing in the NFL. A lot of safeties are generally between the 4.4 and the 4.6 range. He's better than that. He's 4.37. His 10-yard split is a 1.5. He's a 38-inch vert.
Okay, so he's
So
a freaking athlete.
this is a great athlete that the 49ers got. A little bit underperforming, maybe you could say, in his college career. But in terms of athleticism, like I say, it's there. He's 5'11", he's 200 pounds. And the 49ers are going to ask him to challenge Jair Brown at the spot. And this is what the 49ers needed to do. They needed to bring in competition and force the best out of Jair Brown. Now, if Jair Brown can come back to the old Jair Brown, maybe he hangs on to the spot, and this guy happens to be a good backup for us. But there's a really good chance that he could compete and take the spot. That's something that could easily happen here. It's a good pick. You got to keep in mind, this is 160th overall. You got a 4.37 safety. That's a good pick.
Yeah, I mean, if he's not the greatest football player right now, I guess trying to make him one. He's an athlete that's worth putting some time into. That's for sure. And I've seen analysis say that he could play different positions. Like you could put him at corner and like either side of the field at cornerback as well as safety. So I guess if this is a project player, it's a good way to start off a project by taking a serious athlete.
This is another guy that you could consider playing the slot position as well, and then he'd be a much better tackler than your typical corner, right? So this could be a Ward type of draft pick. You know what I mean? The guy that could play corner and safety. And again, when you run a 4.37, you can definitely play corner as long as you have the skills. The speed is there.
Right. We know Saul would love to have his Ward back on the field. Jimmy Ward was an absolute stud for him.
Yeah, Jimmy Ward initially, when he first came as a 49er, he didn't find his game. And then slowly but surely, he became a big-time player for the 49ers. And you noticed it when he left. The play that stands out to me of Jimmy Ward was against the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs and Dak Prescott. He made a play where he jumped it underneath to CeeDee Lamb and tipped it up to Fred Warner. It was an unbelievable play.
Right. Okay, so moving on, Niners take Curtis Rourke, quarterback at Indiana. This is the opposite of a sort of Brock Purdy in terms of stature. He's 6'4", 220 pounds, a big quarterback. He's a pocket passer. He's not a scrambler. I haven't watched a whole ton of this guy, but I guess it's Shanahan trying to recreate that 7th round magic at QB.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't watched very much of this guy either. I wasn't expecting to take a quarterback in this draft. So the fact they took a quarterback and they took it so late, it makes sense as long as it's not early because they do have Brock Purdy and Mac Jones. But if they're looking to develop a guy at the third string position, that's absolutely fine. And this is the guy they went with. And, for whatever reason, this is who Kyle Shanahan wanted. And Kyle Shanahan does a really good job of figuring out who to take at this position here. And this is the guy he went with.
He's Canadian.
Yeah, he's Canadian, and his brother plays for the BC Lions.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's look at these last two 7th round picks that the 49ers are making here live right now. Interested to see what positions they have.
I would expect an offensive lineman.
100%. Let's see what happened here. Round 7, Curtis Rourke, and then they went with Connor Colby, offensive guard out of Iowa. And then their last pick was Junior Bergen, wide receiver out of Montana. So there's another wide receiver. I guess the question is Connor Colby going to get a roster spot? I hope he's a late gem. Those are hard to find in the 7th round. I don't know if the Niners have found any other than Brock Purdy. Especially at O-lineman, that's hard to find. But you never know.
At the end of the day, the 49ers are just going to ride. They're just going to develop him and see what he can turn into. Will he make the 53? Maybe not, but he'll probably be on the practice roster unless he becomes something special and that the 49ers have done in the past.
Yeah, Dominic Pooning. Absolute stud offensive guard first year in.
All right, that's it for the show today. That's our reaction for the 49ers draft. We're excited here. I know a lot of other people aren't, but too bad. The 49ers did what they should have did, and they went defense.
Well said.
Until next time, take care.